just a boy. Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am, but right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, you know there's just 237 days until Christmas 2023. Oh boy! And we've just got a couple of days. There's some things coming this week. In fact, tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to be covering the Hasbro Pulse live stream event. So it's a little bit of a different show. I plan to get on and talk about the reveals. We'll cover it live during the Hasbro event, if at all possible. I've got some work commitments that may delay me just a little bit. So look for that tomorrow. And I've already reached out to see if I can get our friend Martin Keeler, Zuvium, to join us. And there's some big rumors about what we might see tomorrow. We'll talk about that as well. Although the biggest of the rumors was discredited, or at least somewhat dispelled by Yakface. Yakface said, well, we're not going to get the HasLab announcement tomorrow, but we might get some hints, and there's some other stuff coming. So, blurgs. Okay, so if we're not getting the if we're not getting the HasLab, maybe we'll get blurgs. But I doubt that. So then Thursday, May the 4th, be with you all. May 4th, we have two series that are dropping on Disney Plus that day. We'll be getting Visions Season 2, as well as Young Jedi Adventures. We'll be doing some live stream coverage, watch party kind of thing with those series on Thursday. And then Friday, normally I'd be here with my friends Jason and Meg to talk about the week news roundup. But this Friday, I'm going to be in Indianapolis at the Indiana Comic Con. So look for me out there. We'll be in Indianapolis Friday and Saturday. I think my wife and I are going to do something out on our own Sunday. But yes, Yadi's going to be there. Our friend Don Basham's going to be there. I'm going to be there. I've got some special surprise giveaways for the folks that come out there to Indianapolis to meet us. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. So it's enough of that. Let's get my friends on. There's Jason Ward and Star Wars Meg. Good to see you both today. Thanks.
Good morning.
Yes. Lovely jubbly.
What is that? Who says that? That's not a real thing, is it? Did you just make that up?
I pulled it out my tallywhacker.
Oh my goodness. We were having a little bit of fun before the show, but before we get to some of the more fun discussion, today, day one of the writer's strike, it has begun.
Mm-hmm.
The writer's strike is in effect. What impact? Well, so there are a couple big questions. One thing that entertained me is yesterday, all the major news outlets here in the United States were acting like this is breaking news, like a big deal. And we've been talking about it for weeks, more than a month, right?
Yeah.
We've known it was coming. We've been waiting for it to come.
Santa News is the only news source I trust.
Dude, we were very, very aware of it. And then last night, the vote happened. The strike occurred today.
Right? Yeah, the vote was a while ago, but yeah, today was the day when the contract expired. So it's like, Yeah, so it's on.
Yeah.
There's like when you just like listen to rumors and stuff, it's like all over the place when it comes to that stuff about what it means. Like there's a rumor that only CNN, or sorry, I said CNN because I looked at SNN. There's a rumor that there's like Netflix is the holdout and all of the other studios are on board. And like, but I don't know if that's true or not, if that's the case. But if that was the case, I would imagine they would just be like, Netflix, we're all going to go with it. That's what the industry, like Netflix can't hold the industry hostage. So that's what makes me go, I wonder if that's accurate or not. I'm sure it's true. It's going to be true eventually though. Netflix probably will be the holdout. And, but it's going to have ramifications or it could have ramifications on Star Wars if it goes a long time. It's like what we always keep saying is that every concession they make to the writers is going to impact their deal in 2 months with the Directors Guild. So if they give an inch, they're giving another inch to the directors as well. But the writers have like the best, I guess, PR campaign against the whole thing, because if the CEOs just cut their extensive paychecks of like $37 million in half, it's pretty much over. But no, if they, Bob Iger doesn't have $37 million this year, what's he going to do with his life? So they have a really good point. And I think that it humiliating people who make that much money is our American right. It's what we should be doing. It should not be cool that somebody makes $37 million because Bob Iger has no special. Like,
everybody should be making 37 million, Jason. What's your problem?
No, exactly.
I have no problem with people making 37 million. I'd like to make 37 million. That's all good.
That's just greed. That's just outright greed and posturing. And even Ford was like, I gotta pay my factory workers enough to buy a Ford. But Fordism should be, at least if you're not the best person, the base. You know what I mean? Fordism at the baseline. So is because otherwise you can't afford a Ford.
So you mentioned one thing in there that is really, I think it hasn't been reported yet. It has not been reported on the major news outlets. The first is the perception of the gap. Right. So how long is a strike going to last? Are we nearly on the same page? Are we on the same page, different parts of the page? Like, how close are we? That's part of the discussion. And I'm very curious about that. But then the other thing that you mentioned is the director's thing coming up later, because
about 2 months.
2 months from now. So even though they may be close here, they realize whatever that distance is, multiply it by 2, essentially, right? So do you have any sense for how close or not close this whole thing is? Are they?
I don't, because we don't know. We don't really know what the discussions look like, other than we know that they like some of the stuff like AI. Yeah. They said the studios are like, you know what? We'll talk about AI in the future. But it was only not that long ago when the internet was coming and they did that same tactic about the internet. And now here we are. So they're like, no, we remember that was that's very recent. That's like 20 years. And we remember what happened then. We're not letting that happen again. So there are big fights to be had. But I think that like that stuff is going to depend on like how rational the negotiators are. Like, do they understand that you're not really going to be able to put in like a script, make me ET2, and then it's going to come out like good? Like are they really aware of that? So I don't know, but they might think so. I mean, we live in a world where old white dudes negotiate how the internet works, and they think it's like a series of tubes and stuff. Like, it's just, we live in a crazy world. So who knows like how that's going to go? We have no idea.
Let me give you a real world example.
Yeah.
Let me give you a real world.
Yeah, I'm sure you know them in your line of work.
Look, I got 100% example here. My wife and I both work from home full time, right?
Yeah.
I'm a computer programmer. I work for a company out of Montreal, Canada, that's owned by a company in Paris, France, right? So that's
Wait
the
a
company.
minute. You're telling me you don't work American here?
Hey, what I want to know is,
Based.
look, if our corporate overlords are in France, I want to retire at 62 too. You know?
Yeah.
Come
Eating
on.
snails, partying it up with
As a half French, I
Kathy.
approve.
Don't shave them pits. We're going to France.
What's that, Meg?
As a half Frenchie, I approve.
I do approve. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So Meg's opinion counts more than anybody's. That's good. but so I work for this company that's based out of France. But my wife works for one of the major financial institutions in the world. Mm-hmm. And that company, I've mentioned it before. Maybe I won't today because it might not be smart.
Yeah.
I'm going to try not to say it.
Don't say it.
She works for a company. We both work from home. Well, for working from home for this financial institution, they're worried about customers' privacy, which is great. They absolutely should be great. Mm-hmm. But they were like, well, if you're going to work from home, you have to have a dedicated internet line for your computer. I'm like, that's not how the internet works. So I don't.
So you just like run the cable from the company just straight
to our house.
is it like a LAN party? You guys are gonna like play Warcraft after or something? Maybe
I don't. I'm like, that's not how the internet works.
Yeah,
that's not how it's not how. But like you're saying, old white guys with these multi-billion-dollar global companies, say, oh, you have to. We can't have you sharing the same internet. Like, that's just unacceptable. Like,
right.
We have to give you your own internet line. Like, you know what that means, right? You know,
that's crazy.
They come into our house, and where the service line comes in, they put a splitter. Yours goes here, yours goes there. Done. Like, ooh, dedicate. Yeah. But you know what? That splitter now everybody has. Now it's just dumb, right? It's dumb. So to your point, the talented Mr. Griffin asks, are all writers unionized?
The writers not all of them are, but the writers that the studios use, the studios have a deal with the Directors Guild or the Writers Guild in this instance, and so they only the primary writers or the writers will be from that union, and so if they go and they do anything else, I think it's like illegal if they go outside of it and stuff, and and all the writers that are a part of the WGA, they have all turned in. They all have to turn in their what they're working on right now, and send it in. So that way you can't be like, okay, pencils down, and then they keep writing, and then they just turn it in post strike. Like, I just did this today, just got inspired. And then if there's a bunch of people working on stuff, then they have to say all of who's involved in it. That way if somebody broke. So like in most television shows, we'll have several writers, and so that way it completely you snitch on each other. In this instance, snitching is good, and it's it's very unlikely that you would for instance with Star Wars, it's very unlikely that you would have any of that kind of stuff happening. Like, what's his name, Stephen Knight, who's supposed to be writing the Rey film. He can't go and they can't promote him to executive producer. If you're an executive producer and a writer, or if you're like Favreau, who's a writer, director, showrunner, all of that, jack of all trades, he can't talk about anything having to do with the scripts or writing. He can't, if he's an executive producer, he can't comment on writing. He has to literally have split personalities and all of a sudden go, talk about it. And I don't know how that really works in reality, in practice, but
so that's what I want to get. The next question is, the immediate impacts. So they've reported like late night shows that have comedy writers, and they do, daily shows that have fresh writing every day. Those are the first ones impacted. They'll be impacted starting today. Then, shows that are constantly filming and they've just got a small pipeline, like the daytime soap operas and things like that, they will start running out of content soon. One exception are the news programs where they have news journalists. They belong to a different union. They're not impacted by this. So all the news shows,
like Variety and those writers, from what I understand, are part of the Writers Guild, but they have a different set of rules as like media and stuff.
Like 60 Minutes, Dateline, all these shows that are news oriented, they may not be impacted by it. I'm not sure about like things like Dateline or not, but anyhow, the news shows aren't. But then we get to the streaming services where they finished production. These things are already done, but they're going to run out at some point, which means, like you mentioned Netflix a little bit ago, they're going to tap into other content from other markets, and we've seen that before. Like I mentioned, I've been watching some shows on Amazon Prime from Canada, from the BBC, stuff like that. So this is where, if this goes on too long, Meg, you're going to be called upon to tell us what we get to watch next.
They're like, Netflix is supposedly buying up like Asian shows, like a lot from Asia.
Well, tons of BBC stuff as well, and CBC, right? Canadian broadcasting and British broadcasting, and I fully expect to see just loads of that stuff dumped onto our streaming services.
Yeah, I had a question, and no one took the bait really on Twitter, but I was like, what can people? And my friend of mine said you could send them pizza. The writers, if you want to support the writers, you can send them pizza and water. But I was like, what are they, Ninja Turtles? Like, I mean, to an extent. But I was like, I started to wonder, like, what would happen if people unsubscribed to their services during the strike? What would happen? Would that hurt the writers as well in the end? Because like capital wouldn't be going in, that would in the end get them to make projects when the strike is over, or would that send a message? Because I mean, I could get rid of this crap. I'll back solid creators. I mean, it's not like the people who they're hurting are the people that actually make good content. It's not. I don't think it's writers that are creatively bankrupt. It's the studio system that inherently is like, no, make that one thing that we know how to sell because we're stupid. That's why stuff sucks. It's not because of the creatives usually.
Well, let me pivot just a little bit and go to this question. Fitz asked it earlier, and thank you for putting it back into the chat, Fitz, because I was going to go back and try to find it. Hey, Ducky Momo's taking some drive time during a show. Good to see you on the stream, Ducky. We missed you lately. But Fitz asks, I hear Taika's going to direct his Star Wars movie next year. And that hit the news. Meg reported on it today.
Meg says it's happening 100%. Taika's ready to go, hitting the ground running. That's what she said, right? I believe you said it was light speed to the green light. Was that what you said?
I said it was never going to happen, but...
Oh, I misunderstood you entirely. Sorry.
To be fair, you saying that, I have comments sometimes that literally miss the entire point of what I say. Sometimes I wonder.
Sometimes I think they just watch the video with the sound off of you jumping up and down, and they're like, yeah, you're dumb, you're wrong. You're like, what?
That's one theory.
But could this strike flip these? Like, the common wisdom is that the sequel follow-up movie with Rey in it, leading, not leading, whatever, with Rey, and presumably perhaps we might get other sequel era folks in it as well. But that's the smart money is that's on 2025, right? But now Taika was in an interview. He said, hey, he's very excited about directing his stuff next year. And they're like, wait a second. If Taika's very excited about directing his stuff next year, then what? Could
I think there's a small correction to that. Deadlines say they've heard from insiders. I don't know if Taika's actually said it himself.
okay.
And I think that distinction is really important because if Deadline are hearing it from their sources, then is it related to the writer's strike?
Well, and if they're hearing it from their sources, when did their sources are the sources reporting information that's 6 months old? Because that's always the like in reality, when most scoops, so to speak, hit the internet, they're a little cooked. They've been around for a little while. Usually, not all the time, but usually. And so like it something isn't so what does it mean, right? It means if it's true, if it's accurate, the Ray film isn't happening first. It's being pushed. And the Taika movie is taking its place because it's further along. That's what it would mean. But also there's a writer's strike now, so it's not like Taika could start writing it now or anything. And then the trades also tell us Dave Filoni's movie is coming a year after. And like all of these things cannot be true right now. Is our problem.
Would the writer's strike affect the order? Like Taika could go write his whatever he wants on his own, doing his own thing.
No, he can't do anything right now. He can't do anything. He's a writer. He writes for the studios. He can't write a thing. Even though he's a director, he could direct things that other people have written or he wrote in the past before today, but that's it. And so it's pencils down, no one can write anything. So yeah, so something doesn't make sense is what I'm trying to say. Like one of these big trades has reported something inaccurate or things have massively changed. And my theory, this wasn't based off of anything, but my theory was Stephen Knight was brought aboard with a bit of haste to get a draft and a second draft of the Ray film in any state before yesterday. So that way they can, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But if he didn't, if he started and he said, you know what, this is impossible. I can't do it. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Maybe they did go and say, okay, well, Taika's already done, a draft and we'll go forward with that because it's more, he could wing it a bit more and we could go into concepts and stuff like a lot harder. But I mean, they're already doing concept work on the other film too. So it's like, it's a really weird read and it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And
I guess my question is then, why wasn't it announced as Star Wars Celebration as a film that's coming at some point in the future?
Well, Kathy did. You remember in that interview that night, somebody asked her about it. She said, yeah, he's still doing it. But it wasn't, I don't think it was something that they had planned like on the docket right then. And remember there was that Mangold he liked that tweet when they said no Taika movie. Remember that? So like I was like, and I've looked back I thought back on it and I'm like, was that him being a bit catty? Like, screw that guy, I got full of himself. Or was it like, nah, the Taika movie is totally happy and look at this idiot and he liked it so he could like make sure to show somebody there. You know what I mean? Well, like it could have been something like that.
Where my mind went with it is back when you remember Patty Jenkins just a couple months ago was like, hey, I am super excited now I can focus all my attention on my Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Remember? Like she was like all in. Like but there's still no word that that's happening. It's like self-promotion, right?
Sure.
Like, hey, I want to do this thing.
The truth is we just don't know with Lucasfilm.
That's 100%. Well put, Meg. We just don't know because the information they feed us is unreliable for one, but then secondly, even if what they do give us is so obscure that we have no way of knowing details, then most of what we get come through outlets like Jason or Bespin or others, which leads to another story that's out there that I'd like to touch base on while we're talking about the movies and all this. and then we're going to pivot to Ahsoka. Promise you guys, we're going to pivot. We're still talking Star Wars, by the way, but the story that's out there about the movie with Rey was going to be 60 years after the Force or the Rise of Skywalker, and that the model they had in mind was Helen Mirren kind of looking person.
Yeah,
not necessarily.
Jeff Snyder was very clear on the hot mic when he said it was they were looking for someone like Helen Mirren, not people were specifically reporting it as Helen Mirren. That's not what the guy said.
Yeah,
like you said, the model that's an important distinction, because like if they had Helen Mirren and then they were like, never mind Helen, that's a weird move, right?
Right. And I was listening to oh shoot, what's his name? 1 second here.
Have you noticed something though? When Luke shows up, obviously in 2015 as old man Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, reverse that. Mark Hamill appears as old Luke in 2015 in The Force Awakens. Everyone's moaning about Luke being an old hermit on an island, but the minute fans hear about a possible older Rey, everyone's cool with it. Just some food for thought.
Well,
maybe question why you feel that way.
Here's something that occurred to me, because honestly, like I'm not saying Snyder's scoop is wrong. I don't know. I asked though a very, very reliable source, someone who this source was the one who told me Luke only has 2 scenes in The Force Awakens. Like, it's a good source. And I was like, is it? And they were like, no, Rey was never old. And Daisy came on in February of the year before. So I was like, okay. So I don't know what to make of it. I'm not like sizing up. I'm not saying your scoop's wrong and mine's right or anything like that. It's not even a scoop. I'm not reporting it. Like, it's not an article by me or anything. So I'm just like, I find it really confusing. And, but I started to wonder, what if it's the reverse? Mark Hamill becomes young in The Mandalorian. What if you use the same technology to make Daisy really old as hell?
Well, I mean, there is that. We'll talk about AI here in a moment. But the Christian Harloff, I was listening to his coverage of it this morning, and he said he had heard the same thing before this story came out. He had heard it, but it was unsubstantiated. But people he trusted, people he knew, had kind of said the same thing, that it was supposed to be an old Rey set way after the sequels. Okay. So he's saying he heard it separately. When Roca and Snyder were talking about it, both of them said they heard it from different people. Snyder brought it up, and then Roca said, now that you said that, I can say that I heard that too from somebody entirely different. So there are sources, and who knows, like, you know this as well. Sometimes your source might be somebody else's source too. And then you say, hey, I heard this thing. Somebody else says, hey, I heard this thing. I actually heard it from the same dude. Just that same dude isn't talking to both people, like within the same network.
Little thing I got to figure out is like when some of the sewing circles get together, if it's just the echo chamber. And I've seen one particular echo chamber just trip on itself time and time again because of that same kind of thing. And it's like, well,
perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to bring up, because you and I have talked about more particulars, like in private, right? We've had discussions, and I've learned a ton from you, from just our personal discussions together. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't want to break any confidences, but I picked up on that as you've been talking to me over time, over our friendship. And I thought this is a good way to say it. Like, there are, would you call it a sewing circle? Like, like we got a group of people sharing information. So it's very possible that Harloff, Roca are hearing it from the same source.
Yeah, and I'm not calling them the sewing circle, for the record. That was a completely different thing I'm talking about. Yeah.
Way to put that. That's very good, because we're not saying this is the same folks, or we're not even calling them a sewing circle. We're trying to put it in terms without giving away specifics about well, this is right. We don't want to get into that. I'm just trying to paint a picture for folks to understand what we're saying, right?
Right.
So, hey, Ducky Momo with a $10 super chat coming up. Thank you for that, Ducky Momo. It says, at my designation, and got to make some money to pay for super chats. Thank you. He was driving, so you got to hear. Miss y'all, and hope to have life be normal enough to Star Wars again soon. Thank you, Ducky. And if we make it out to Pittsburgh, I'll give you a ring and we'll touch base. But,
wait, you're gonna get married? We're gonna get down one knee? Gonna propose?
No. He's married. He's got
Duck
kids.
and duck.
He's got he's married. He's got kids. So I do want to talk about Ahsoka. And there's Ducky's super chat made it onto the screen. There was an interview done by Entertainment Weekly, and they talked with Dave Filoni, and many people have made the connection. I saw Thor Skywalker, he and his wife were kind of joking about it because what gave you the hint that maybe Ahsoka is connected to Rebels? Could it be that Hera and Sabine and Zeb and the scene at the post credit of Rebels, like what was your first clue? Like these could be
honest,
connected.
Though, like it's really simple. The whole thing is really simple. We last saw these characters in Rebels. They've appeared in nothing else, unless you count Forces of Destiny, which I do enjoy. Like, of course, it's the continuation, but it's going to be its own show. So it's like, to what extent is the Mandalorian movie related to the Mandalorian? Well, it's going to be its own thing, but it still carries on that story. I literally think it's as simple as that. And Dave is kind of saying, well, if you're a Rebels fan, this will have what you want. But also, you don't have to have seen Rebels. So that's my take on it.
I think you're right. I mean, he's pretty much like, when you take the totality of his comments, he's like, if the character exists there, as if it continues on, then it would be there. Then yeah, it is. But the Star Wars continues, the timeline continues.
Right. So we do.
Why is Dave Filoni in drag?
I know. It's like I don't know what that video is all about.
Well, it's that way. He thinks if he does that, he can write, and that the Writers Guild won't catch him.
I see. It's a secret.
Yeah. Davina Filonia. It doesn't work though. We all know.
But they ask him, "Are these? Is this essentially just a continuation of Rebels? Is this just Rebel season 5?" And
I got a question. Yeah, are they going to be like Roger Rabbit cartoon people in this? No, sorry.
No, you do remember though there was talk way back that there was discussion about an animated Rebels season 5 being in the works for Disney Plus, but then
that wasn't true. That was never true.
I'm saying that we heard a rumor,
okay.
but years
that was a
ago,
rumor,
right?
Yeah, I'm sure that makes sense.
And then that went away. And it's like, oh, maybe they'll do it there. Maybe they'll do it there. It's the same thing we're talking about with other stuff, like maybe with let's say Rangers of the New Republic. They'll put part of the story here, put part of the story there.
Right.
But in this case, we have Rebels. Rebels season 5. There's talk. Well, they canceled the animated series. They're going to make it live action. So is this that? Is this the live action retake of Rebels season 5 into the Ahsoka storyline? And Dave, Meg, go ahead. You covered it this morning. Give the TLDR of the story here, if you would.
He basically, like in every other interview, tries his best to not answer anything with a definitive answer. So he more or less says, yeah, it's got Rebels things in it, but it's its own installment of Star Wars. That's pretty much all you need to know.
That's pretty much it. And he talks about, well, he and John have been on this creative process together, and there's the new content to include that wasn't there when he did Rebels. Right? The whole tie-in with the Mandoverse and putting it in his time frame changed whatever story he had in his mind at that time. It's evolved. It's become something different that includes other things. And so that's basically it. sort of like maybe, but not really. That's what he's saying. So,
Yeah.
would it be beneficial to go back and watch Rebels season 4? I think that's what he recommended. Just watch the last season of Rebels if you want to.
That kind of thing is like when it comes up, should you or should you not? It literally depends on the person. Some people you'll go watch Rebels season 4 and they'll turn it on and it won't be their jam, and then they won't watch the other show. They'll be like, I don't like this. And it's like, because most of us can watch shows in multiple mediums, which is what Dave is sort of saying. Like, I just make content in this medium, I make content in that medium sometimes. But some people aren't that way. Some people have a hard time with it. Some people only like the films, they only like to watch movies. So but I would say if you liked Rebels and you watch Rebels and it's like your thing, then I think it would be fun to watch the final season before you get to this, because obviously the story continues there, right?
Do you want to know what's funny about that though, Jason?
Mm-hmm.
I would typically be the person who finds it hard to watch some stories in certain mediums, which is why I'm not the biggest Clone Wars fan. But for some reason, the story just breaks through and speaks to me in Rebels, and I can look past the animation, but I can never do that for Clone Wars.
Yeah.
With Clone Wars, I find myself turning on an episode and then I'm like, this time I'm going to finish this season, like season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Mon Calamari starts swimming with, Sandy from SpongeBob, like that kind of underwater thing.
The one with Riff Tamson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One with the whale.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, nah, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a new Family Guy episode, so I just watched that.
Yeah.
Well, let me throw in one more, since we talk about different medium and perhaps adding to the story. I completely agree. And Jason, you made a really good point there. Like, if animation's not your jam, then probably going back and watching Rebels isn't going to make you happy. Especially if you make a mistake of starting with season 1 and you, like I did, and be like, this show is terrible. I'm not going to watch it. And it took me like 2-3 times to get through with big gaps, like year interval gaps, trying to make it through season 1 because I've hated it so much. But then once you ease into it, you get comfortable with it, it gets really good. It gets really good really quickly. By season 2, I was fully bought in. Season 3, 4 was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I always tell my friends to have similar sensibilities to me who ask me, like, is that worth watching? I usually tell them, like, the storytelling in Rebels is like a 9, but the execution is Disney XD. So you'll have things like Ezra monologuing, saying what he's thinking, which when you're not an idiot, kids aren't idiots. No one needs that, actually. That's just them going, we gotta idiot proof this thing. And but I'm like, so if you could get past that, it's good storytelling in the big picture. And that's ultimately what we're kind of reaping the benefits of in the Ahsoka series, theoretically.
So let me do a little quick sales pitch, because Bespin and Nick and Baymax are up to shenanigans in the chat. I don't know if you've been watching them, but the shenanigans are strong with these three. And so Bespin's defending himself here against Nick. But I will say, if you are one of Jason Ward, MakingStarWars.net, one of his Patreon supporters, you can get access to his Discord server. And you know who else is in Jason Ward's Discord server?
You.
Bespin. Well, Meg.
Bespin?
And me. But also Bespin. Bespin just joined, I saw yesterday.
Oh. Is he in there? Is he in there?
Jason's not even paying attention to Jason's Discord.
I was playing Jedi Survivor yesterday. I'm doing the bounty hunting missions.
That's what Bespin said. He said, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't.
we had a funny thing this weekend, because he was like, man, there's some parts in this game where I don't know where I'm supposed to jump, and you just like are in a room and it's just like you're trapped and you're just like, what is life, you know? And then I was like, oh man. So then, like, me and my son are playing, and then we hit this point, and I text him. I'm like, hey, is this one of those points? Because we're stuck. And then he texts me back, and he's in the same room at the same time. And I was like, that's when we became a video game dyad.
I stopped playing Survivor. I was on Coruscant. Do you know the bit where the senator just runs away from you, and then you got to take out his stormtroopers, where he tries to confiscate your lightsaber, and then BD1 comes in and saves you. Well, the last sentence of the senator keeps repeating, and then my PS5 just turns off.
Oh. I think there's a patch today. Might want to try it again with the patch.
Yeah. So anyway, I stopped because there was a Bespin sighting, and Bespin did appear in your Discord yesterday, which was neat. Now I don't know if Nick did it or what, because he's saying I don't know what's going on. I was playing Survivor. I don't know, but in any case, we all are very active in Discord. You can converse with Meg and Jason and myself in Discord. We're very active there.
And Santa's very passionate about the BBC.
I'm beginning to just worry about what I'm going to be watching next. So I need.
You're watching a lot of BBC, buddy.
I know. That's why I'm desperate for Meg to give me good recommendations. And if they suck,
I can
then
send
we
you
will
some BBC some BBC content.
Not when you're laughing like that. You don't. I don't trust you. But Rebels.
I mean, the good thing about BBC is that it's long. You know what I mean? That's like the good part of it. So, I mean, we have like a writer's strike that's going to last, it could last several months.
Why would you say it that way?
I don't know. Say what? Like you ever watch like Doctor Who? There's like 300 million episodes of that show.
That's true.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kindle heard it. Kindle's like, oh God. So I wanted to play a little thought game, a fun game here, and talk about who first of all, is it a Rebels continuation? Yeah, sort of, but not exactly. It's not a direct follow through of Rebels. Also, if you're looking for other content that you enjoy, if you like animation, then I think all of us would strongly recommend Rebels. Secondly, if you like and you've been looking for some novels to read, we learned Timothy Zahn was given the Rebels scripts, and he wrote the Thrawn trilogy to be adjacent to Rebels. So
adjacent to.
That's me.
So
me.
I went back, and there is a good bit. I restarted those novels. Lothal is prominent right off at the beginning of the Thrawn novel. So there's that. So just recommendations from us. Like if you enjoy reading, you haven't got into Thrawn, you'd like to learn more before Ahsoka starts, get into those Thrawn novels. If you enjoy animation, by all means, go back and watch Rebels. You should do that. But characters that we might see from Rebels in Ahsoka. So here we're going to play a little game. And all of you who are on the stream, you can put it in your...
Did you guys see this from the latest
did.
comic?
What comic did this come from, Meg?
What's her name? Santos Saros, whatever her name is. But they named a droid Bollocks. Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
That's Bollocks.
Which I can't even explain. Like, why?
Bollocks
he's
is
brown.
the name, sir. And there's more to me than this somewhat battered exterior.
I don't know what that's about. But anyhow...
by the way, guys, they just announced a Simpsons Rogue One special on May the 4th.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Very exciting.
I got the notification on Twitter.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, that's cool.
Fantastic. So there you go. So there's...
I need to never mind the Bollocks shirt with him on it.
Sex Pistols.
I broke him. I did it. I did it.
Characters from Rebels that could appear.
Yeah.
Now, some of them we know definitively, like Hera Syndulla.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know who Hera Syndulla is, she's the pilot of the Ghost, which is a ship from Rebels. It's a fantastic ship, and it's got a docking station for a smaller ship that it had for some time, and then that went away, and they got a different one. But anyhow,
The Phantom 1, the Phantom 2.
yes,
And you know what, guys? If you go back in time and you ask a Star Wars fan from 1977, actually, no, let's make it after Jedi, so 1983, you tell them all about Harrison Jula. Do you know what Star Wars fans would have said back then? Is she on the light side of the Force or the dark side of the Force? Because Star Wars Once Upon a Time was very simple.
Correction. I'd be like, can you see through her shirt like that one in Return of the Jedi? That's what I want to say.
So she's a pilot. She, as Jason said, she's a Twi'lek, right? So a green Twi'lek, female pilot of the Ghost. A very competent, very capable pilot. But there are other members in there. Ezra Bridger, the Jedi who was taken away with Thrawn. So we expect to see them at some point. Sabine, we've already seen Sabine and Hera in some of the trailers. Sabine was a member of the Ghost crew. Then Chopper, the droid, the most prolific murderer in all of Star Wars.
Espen has a photo of Jason Syndulla in Ahsoka.
Oh no!
He sent it to me.
Is it a real one?
It's real. It looks real. I think that's real. I think it's real.
It looks real.
I think it looks real.
You need to put that in a thumbnail. We need that. So yeah, that's absolutely great. Thank you for that, Bespin. But Chopper, the most prolific murderer in all of Star Wars, right? Chopper the droid. He is in it. The Ghost itself, perhaps, is.
It's in it, yeah.
You know who's definitely going to be in it, no matter what? Trapper Wolf. Dave Filoni's ego is the size of the sun, so he's definitely going to insert himself in Ahsoka. The show, not the character.
Maybe.
Maybe. So this is where I want to get into some of the supporting characters. Trapper Wolf.
Lux Bonteri. And they're going to get married and have a baby.
So
see, here's the thing: you can have as many Clone Wars or Rebels characters as you want, because this is this is just Dave Filoni's thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Favreau's just a producer, so if you're hoping for characters we never saw in Mando from those animated shows,
right,
it's going to be in this one.
They absolutely could. Sounds
had a good suggestion.
I do have one, and I'm going to set it up for everybody. So some of the supporting characters in there, major characters that help move the story through. Starting in Rebels Season 2, the Emperor and Vader. Vader appears throughout. I haven't heard anybody mention Vader being part of this because he's dead. But more than that,
I've had scoops about Vader being a part of it.
Right, flashback scene with the World Between Worlds,
and then we got an Anakin and we got an actual Vader team together.
What about?
So I don't know what the actual costume Darth Vader does though.
I saw Meg post that she wanted to see Force Ghost Anakin. Do you think we'll see Force Ghost Anakin?
I think it's almost certain we're going to see Force Ghost Anakin. Because if Hayden Christensen's been called back, it's not just going to be for flashbacks, I don't think. I feel as though if there's a show to give us his Force Ghost, it's going to be the Ahsoka show.
So I don't disagree with where your mind's at. But if we look at it in terms of you want to do a second season, you got to leave some things on the table to get to in the next future stuff. You can't, if you do all the check boxes the first season, then you don't have anything left in terms of the fan servicey, like that. Wouldn't that be a great moment kind of stuff? And so I think that would probably make sense if they got Hayden back. They would do that, because if you do introduce that idea in the series, right? You introduce like, oh, here's what happened to him. She knows what happens. Here's what happened if she had stayed, and good thing she didn't in a way. But you still need the atonement, right? You still need that to come somewhere where you're like, oh, okay, now in this particular narrative, it makes
we haven't
like,
seen.
You know what's going to happen, Jason? It's going to be like the Luke reveal in Book of Boba Fett. This is not the first time Ahsoka's communicated with Anakin. They're
Can't
just going to
be.
have it really slight. It's going to be like Obi-Wan in Return of the Jedi. We see the first time Obi-Wan appears to him in Empire on Hoth, you will go to the Dagobah system. But then
Right.
in Return of the Jedi, he's just fixing his ship. He turns around. He's like, Obi-Wan, why didn't you tell me? So I think Ahsoka and Anakin should have that moment where it's like, oh yeah, he appears all the time.
Yeah, because he should. I mean, they had a very close relationship, and after his atonement, you would think Ahsoka would be one of the first ones that he would reconnect with as a Force ghost. But some other characters that aren't dead or not confirmed dead anyway. The last that we saw them, one of them we know is Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma had a role in Rebels, and chance that we will see Mon Mothma in Ahsoka is extremely high.
Well, she's in the trailer.
Yeah, she's in
Yeah.
the trailer.
She's confirmed.
So
What about
it's as high as it can be.
what about
Let's get her.
so she goes in the same category with Hera and Sabine, right?
Yeah.
But what about Callus? Now we saw Zeb in Mandalorian season 3. Zeb's most certainly, I think, now that we've seen him in Mando, be extremely disappointing to not see him in Ahsoka. He has to be in there, right?
What, Callus has to be in there?
No, Zeb.
Oh, Zeb.
I don't think we'll ever see Callus. And I've thought about this really hard.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're ever going to see Callus because they have in today's climate, they have a very interesting situation on their hands. There are a lot of Star Wars Rebels fans passionate about the voice actor being Callus in live action. And of course, he doesn't resemble the animated character.
Yellow? Is that how you say his last name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Agent Callus is Caucasian. So I think they do have that, and they know like how passionate people are about those kind of things. I mean, look at the Bad Batch situation about the unwhitewashed, the Bad Batch, I think it was.
I'm just thinking about how mad people were about like Cad Bane's not blue enough. Well,
Exactly.
what do you do? What do you do when if you cast a voice actor? I don't know. That's not going to work. But would they be reasonable about that?
My headphones, I can't hear. Hold on.
Okay.
Now I can hear. I can.
Okay. would the fans be reasonable about that one though? I think it would be unreasonable to be unreasonable about that one. You know what I mean? Like,
do you need Callus though? Does he play any role in the Ahsoka story?
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't necessarily see why he would. In a big way, because I don't remember there being a really strong connection between Callus and Ahsoka. If there was one, I can't recall off the top of my head. And then the story about him, helping out Zeb's people at the end after he tried to help eradicate them is sort of like, I think he kind of owes that life's work to doing that now, considering how many of their lives he took. So it's like, but it's also kind of weird that Zeb's like, I'm going to here and help my people reestablish and stuff. But then we see him now, he's like a Republic pilot. So,
right.
So
we've
it's like,
seen Zeb.
He helped to restore the Lasat people or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't see how he matters. Like, I remember when people were saying, well, Hera Syndulla is definitely going to be in the Ahsoka show. And we know she is now.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were speculating, would Vanessa Marshall return, all of that kind of thing, even then I was thinking someone as important as Hera to Rebels, would she really matter in the Ahsoka show? So the more you go away from the main Ghost crew, the less likely I think Dave Filoni has a plan for them, unless it's just like a cameo or a reference or a name drop. And I feel like that's going to be the case for a lot of these characters, which is why I even think someone like Zeb might play a small role in the New Republic stuff, but maybe again just as an occasional presence.
He's got to be in Ahsoka, right? We all agree. Zeb has to be in.
I don't see them making that character model to be like in that one shot in Mandalorian.
Yeah, he'll definitely be in Ahsoka.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So let's talk about other characters that may or may not appear, and one of them that I'm quite certain will not appear is the Bendu. The Bendu is one of my favorite characters from Rebels, but I just don't see them going in the direction to put him in the show.
But he did have scenes with
I disagree
Thrawn.
so strongly. if Jon Favreau is an executive producer on this, he loves his creature episodes. I mean, most of season 3 was just creatures.
Well, let me show you guys something. I watched this article over the weekend, and it piqued my interest. It's about doing CG with AI. And there's this company, NBC did this story over the weekend. But it's doing the deep fake kind of thing using AI. And here you have the news reporter and just an actress. And so they take models of her face, and then they just cast the other lady's face over top of it.
That's scary.
This is AI.
Well, that right there, that sort of tech, like I was talking about before, like it's kind of been a little underreported, but like they have like a ILM and stuff is doing this thing with like using 5G stuff, and can't remember which company it was, one of the telecom sort of companies, and they were like basically like able to render back at like an ILM supercomputer and send back in real time, and so like they could have Jar Jar Binks fully rendered hosting SNL if they wanted to.
Well, watch what they do here. They this isn't in front of blue screen, green screen, anything like that. And they do a shot here. It comes up in just a moment where they take their bodies and basically put them like on a B1 battle droid kind of thing. It's not a B1, but it essentially looks like one. It takes all of their motions. They don't have those little tennis balls all over them. And again, you can see what they're doing here. But
makeup.
Right. And this is one of the things that they're worried about, unauthorized use of names, voices, likeness. Like in sports here in the States, especially with college athletes. Here we go. You see this lady walking down the path, and now watch, boom.
Yeah.
Right. It's
guys, so sorry. I do have to run.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry about this, but
just run in place.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Meg.
See you later.
We'll talk to you later.
Speak soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, bye. But in any of it, you can see what they're doing here with this AI. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. Right? Yeah. So including characters that you might previously thought, they're showing how with the mocap shoot and stuff like that they used to do. They don't have to do mocap anymore.
Right.
They don't have to give blue screen anymore. Mm-hmm. They can just do it and render it with AI, and they can replace just like that, right? Like, look, there's no. Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, and I'm curious as to like how close it is. Like obviously like if it was completely there, I don't think James Cameron would be he's still doing mocap like on the Avatar films. So I think it's like mostly there, like on simple stuff like that. But yeah, when you look at it, like you just think about, in 10 years, like what they're going to be able to do. I mean, singularity's coming, people. The singularity's coming.
When you think about like name, image, and likeness with college athletes, right? Mm-hmm. So they get paid millions of dollars now because they allow companies to use their name, image, and likeness. I could very well see actors getting paid to use their NIL,
right,
and put them in something that they never even go to. Like people talk a lot about Pedro Pascal not being on set for Mando season 3. He just did some voiceover work.
But he was on set for a cell phone commercial for a game.
Yeah. Well, and Katie said that she did see him around. Like he wasn't absent, but he wasn't.
What does that mean at production meatings? You know what I mean? Like it can mean anything.
Well, or
I don't know the quote, but
yeah, when she was interviewing with I just mentioned his name a second ago, and I just lost it again.
Harloff?
Harloff. Yeah, Christian Harloff. Mm-hmm. That interview with Harloff, she said, the three of them would be on set. But he wasn't acting. He wasn't doing that. And who knows if he was there for like 45 minutes and then left. I don't know. But in any event, you could get a situation where they take somebody's NIL and they put them in a movie and they get paid, but they don't have to go there.
Well, it's just like selling your likeness to an action figure.
Okay, so now
essentially,
let me ask some more questions then. So I bring that up because there are other cameos that we could perhaps see that nobody has mentioned yet. There's one major character, and those of you in the chat, I did mention it to Meg, but before we came on stream, so she knows who it is. There's one major character from Rebels that nobody's mentioning, and this person, this character, was prominent throughout all the seasons of Rebels, and could very well be in. There's Sketchcraft. Once AI figures out how to leave overpriced Lego sets under my tree with zero need for cookies, it's my job. I'm out of a job. Santa's out of a job. That's true. And to be honest, there are Santa Clauses that do what I do, who are very worried about AI in their jobs. So that's a thing. And many of you know I do virtual visits and stuff like that with kids as well. And that'll be the first thing that goes. But
so we got Meg over there, and she's got the little program running. She's like, "Ho ho ho! I'm Santa, I'm taking all the Santa money." And you're like, "What is going on?"
Well,
this was my thing.
My thing, yeah.
But she's been studying you the whole time, so she has like the nuance. She's like,
so
"I am a puppeteer."
I'm going to ask the chat, if you can read Santa's mind, who is the character that I'm thinking of from Rebels? Was across all 4 seasons, a very prominent character that is goes right there with Callus and some of the others that nobody's talking about, that absolutely could and maybe probably should, given context for the trailers that we've seen. That we've
Hat
heard.
Lady.
No,
she died, huh? Hat Lady died, right?
No.
Remember there was like that extra that they were using, and then she became like a leader on Lothal, and it was like she was like just walking around for like every episode, and now she's like a major character. What? And then Price died. Darth Vader, I don't know if we're talking about that.
Not Kurtz, not Hondo. Hondo, it would be great. That's not it. You guys, we'll have to work on it. Somebody will get it. I have trust in the crowd. I have trust in the group. One of you will definitely get it. If not, I'll reveal it later. I told Meg before the show started, and we were going to tease Jason through the whole show, but
did somebody make like a supercut with the puffer pig in every episode for you? And that's what you're thinking? Because you did say puffer pig.
Brandon gets the prize. Ryder Azadi. Ryder is on Lothal.
He's got a stupid hat too.
He's got a beard, a wonderful white beard. You should have gotten that, Jason. I tried to.
That's fair. Right? What's his name? Ryder Azadi? Was that his name?
Yeah. Ryder Azadi. He's from Lothal. He's
it'd be cool if he did karate. His name was Ryder Azadi, who does karate. Okay.
No, why not Ryder? I would love to see Ryder, and we've seen
he's a traitor.
No, he's not.
Okay, I'll trust him.
It's the white beard that throws you off. I know. It's
that Captain Rex white beard.
Well, a lot of people mention Rex. Rex absolutely could be, but I'm a little questionable. But we've seen in the previews some shots from Lothal. Ryder is on Lothal. Ryder's a big character in Rebels.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we need to see Ryder.
And as the talented says, voiced by downtown Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown is really cool with them. Clancy Brown has been in Mando as the not a Zabrak, a Deveronian gang member of Din Djarin. And so, there is a chance he could play Ryder. That could happen.
A major Rebels character, Dawn, nobody's talking about, who should be in Ahsoka. Ryder Azadi should be in there. And it's spelled, I think, Ryder, not R. But anyway, that would be fantastic.
Ryder Dirty. His middle name is Dirty. Ryder Dirty Azadi.
Yeah, Ryder. Reskov. Would Clancy Brown play Ryder in live action?
I'd hope so. I think he could do it. He'd be great.
Other characters. What about Black Chrysanthemum?
Wait, you said Rebels. Now you're just like bringing in Book of Boba Fett and comic books.
Yeah. What about Din Djarin, Din Grogu,
Yeah.
Boba Fett?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Din shows up. I don't know if this happens. I wouldn't be surprised if we got some sideways stuff because we know the timelines go sideways or parallel to the Mandalorian.
Right.
So I mean, like what if we do see Ahsoka answering the call to Luke and going there and their first part, and like Meg suggested, Anakin the Ghost is there and they have a little chat, and then the scenes from Mando 2 happen. You know, there's a lot of potential and possibilities in that kind of stuff.
Cad Bane ain't dead. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, Cad Bane's not dead.
I think he's alive.
He's fine.
He's
fine. He's fine.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Sheev the Wise is going to owe Santa big time when we see that he's not dead. Sheev's in big trouble. But
what was the bet?
Well, Sheev and I had a bet that if Cad Bane died in the Book of Boba Fett, I had to use his background for an entire week of my live stream shows.
Okay.
And if Cad Bane survived, then he had to have Santa's background for an entire week on his shows. And I even without 100% definitive truth, I did my show for an entire week from Vader's Lair. So
I remember that.
Yeah. So now I think it should be 2 weeks. He should have to do 1 week to make up for the week that I did, unjustly, and then 1 week to pay off the bet. I think she should have to do 2 weeks. And
she has to start every episode by saying, "Cad Bane, I'll never doubt you again."
Right. Right. And I think that it would be good to. You're not allowed to take like a 2 week break. That's the other part. You have to be doing your regular show schedule. Yeah. So that was the background bet. So there are other characters though that, based on this like NBC News thing on the AI things.
Mm-hmm.
What about Luke and Han and Leia? What about Han and Leia? We've talked a lot about how this is bringing in some story beats and points from Heir to the Empire. Well, Han and Leia are key figures in that series. What about Chewbacca?
Ahsoka does know Chewbacca. They did go on. They had an adventure when they were being hunted by Trandoshans. That happened.
It happened. I mean, is there any chance that we see Han and Leia in Ahsoka, or is that just foolish?
I would love to see Han and Leia in some way, but I don't really see the opening for it in what we know of this series. And also, like, I would think that would be better speculation for that film that's going to happen, because that film is going to be, if it's modeling itself after the Avengers, what do the Avengers movies have to do? They just have to entertain and delight. They're not really, in my opinion, the Avengers films, there's a difference between like a good movie and a satisfying audience film. This is, they're not necessarily like the same thing. And those Avengers movies, I think, really please fans, but I don't think they're actually good movies personally. and that's why I don't really expect that movie to be a good movie either. I expect it to be a very big crowd pleaser and a lot of fun, but probably like a good film just by itself with if you just took it as a piece of art that stood on its own, would it? And the organization of that doesn't allow for a lot of depth. They're by their very nature very shallow. So what better place to have Han Solo showing up in the Millennium Falcon with Princess Leia, you know what I mean? And stuff like that, and Luke Skywalker and things. It makes the most sense. And Back to the Future 2 is one of the best films that ever existed. And Michael J. Fox is sexy in it. And I don't know what that means. So...
And I agree with Vanessa. I do think at some point they will have Han, Luke, and Leia together, right? I think that will happen. We see the opportunity, and the AI is just getting better, right? We talk about CG, we talk about deepfake and all of this. Well, this AI that was featured on NBC News this week to me has me absolutely convinced that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because this was so convincing. And when you watch the story, it actually gets into it. It takes them a few hours to do that. So they're just doing the wipe on the screen. It's not like they were hitting a button and it was just wiping and then you had the droid.
It's not like your phone necessarily yet where you turn it on like, I'm a mouse, look at me, I'm an alien. Right. It's not that yet.
That's what it looks like when you watch it, when we weren't actually playing it. It did take them several hours to process that. But several hours, Jason, not like months.
Yeah.
And
No, and that's when you look at the turnaround of something like that compared to what it classically would be on a film, which is where they take it, then they have to send it back in and analyze, you know what I mean? It takes it takes a week to sometimes to do a shot. I think at one point on Phantom Menace towards the back end, they started going like where they were getting like a shot a day on some of the stuff, but for like the really like normal stuff, like smaller stuff. But now, I mean, if you do that in a few hours, potentially, you know, like Jar Jar Binks, for instance, you know, you'd be having it pretty quick. But the whole thing is like, you know, how far away is that right now? And like, if they're doing that right now in a few hours, and provided we don't run into like a resource issue to be able to make processors or something like that, like I said, like the singularity, that point, what does Kurzweil say? It's like 2040 ish.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, if that happens by 2040, it's just going to be like, oh, how we do things, we'll be able to figure out one computer will be smarter than every human put together on Earth. And so when that happens, movies, I mean, like Star Wars, there's going to be like, they're going to be able to write it, and it's going to really be able to like, they're going to be able to make production maps.
Well, that's why I mean,
make films efficiently, like, but I still think that there will still be that artisan quality to it. There will still be like, I still want, like, remember the prequels, George Lucas's vision of digital democracy. Then what happened? What happened? Like right in reaction to it. Oh, practical sets, puppets. We're back. There's like an artisan quality to that.
Well, there is something missing. And Ray's Scotty Hawks. But yes, I am very aware of UE5. Unreal Engine is coming right along. And if you watched on HBO, oh shoot, what was that series? The book that basically Star Wars was stolen from. Dune. A lot of
Frank
Dune.
Herbert's Dune.
A lot of Dune is Unreal Engine. You can see it, but because Unreal Engine isn't that good yet. It's very good, so good that they did like an entire show on HBO Max on it. But it's very, very good at Sketchcraft. The only thing it doesn't do really well is decent frame rates. That too, but some of it you could tell. You could tell.
So it's like Jedi Survivor? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Well, it's not going to replace practical effects yet. And I saw the question in the Sam asked it. Would a perfect deep fake? Where's the rest of it? He put there's a.
Would it still
feel hollow? Yeah. Would it still feel hollow?
Like I think that when it comes to some things, not all things, but some of it is like cultural. Like there becomes like we are used to film being at 24 frames a second. It's not that's so weird that we even still go with it. But I think we go with it probably out of culture. We're used to it. Our culture says this is what what shows look like. It's not necessarily the best picture. I mean, you can make an art, and does that artistic preference come out of it being part of our culture that we were literally raised with 24 frames a second? Therefore, that's the correct way.
Well, high frame rate looks great when you're watching like sports, like high speed things happening. High frame rate is amazing. Yeah, but it looks terrible when you're watching a show.
Does it look terrible, or is it our preference because of I don't know what the answer is, but like I talked to Dennis Muren, the legend, and I went to the Attack of the Clones 3D screening in Marin County when I lived up in San Francisco. Right, talking, and he's just like, yeah, like my new TV, it has that setting. I love it because it makes old movies look like they're brand new. And in my inside, I'm dying. I'm just like, I know you're a genius. I know you're amazing, but you sound crazy right now. In my head, I was like, okay, you know.
Real quick, KG, I sent you a message. You won some Star Wars Santa merch again. 2 shows in a row. So hit me up on Discord. I sent you a DM on Discord.
One for the K, one for the G.
Yeah, send me back what you would like. I'll get that ordered and sent right out to you. We also have another winner that I don't know who they are. It was
little Stevie. Little Stevie, you have won the Newt Gunray doll.
No,
Life-size Newt Gunray doll. No?
No.
Sorry, Stevie. You're screwed, Stevie. You didn't win anything.
It was SWL. SWL participated in the game all through the whole season and won. Came in second place, I think. But SWL has...
Beating you was the reward unto itself, they decided.
Could be it. I just don't know who SWL is, right? Yeah. KG and SWL tied at 115, and Baymax snuck in there with 112. He tied me, so he won.
I think he's cooking the books. I think he goes in there and it's like, beep, boop, bop.
He did whine and cry a lot about it until he got his way. I'm just saying. No, I kid. He earned it. But I am more and more convinced that we will see live action version of Han and Leia through AI.
Yeah.
And it's got to be very respectful if you're going to use Carrie in something like that. Plus, I mentioned that
I'll put her in the bikini. Come on, let's do it.
I mentioned the NILs, right? And one of the things going on with this writer strike, it concerns the future of streaming and these kind of things as well. But her estate needs to give that permission. They need to get paid. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
unless I don't know what the actual deal with that is. Did she sell her likeness to them, like, you know, in perpetuity, for instance, like around the Rogue One time? She may have.
I don't know. They would have to do that, right? Because you can't just use her NIL without paying them. And I think that's the future when we start to talk about AI starting to do live action characters for Star Wars, especially. Because I want to kind of circle back real quick to the Rey movie idea, the concept. And but one of the mistakes George Lucas made, in my opinion, was doing the prequels instead of the sequels, right? Going back and telling the story of before instead of doing the story after. Because if you wanted to tell that story, you had the actors within a relative time frame after finishing Return of the Jedi. We could have used their live action performances in movies without having too much effort.
You know what he could have done, though? He could have just got Helen Mirren.
So,
all right.
I think that was a big mistake of his, right?
Yeah.
Not doing the sequels. He should have done sequels, not prequels, because you could have done the prequels anytime. You don't have to have the actors that you had in the original trilogy.
If he had done the prequels though, and then he had jumped right into the sequels from that, they still all looked pretty good.
Yeah, like, he could have got by with it.
Yeah, it completely was still like possible. It wasn't off the table, but obviously, like, by the time we got to episode 7, you know, Harrison Ford looks like a grandpa. So it's like, you didn't hit that wall.
And unfortunately, we lost Carrie, you know?
Yeah.
It's tragic. But
I'll be honest, though, I wondered, like, how much of being back in Star Wars and that pressure and the blitz and the busyness contributed to her needing to party and then obviously passing from it. And like, so I kind of wonder if they had done it right then, would this have happened anyway? Would this have led to that eventuality? Because she wasn't really in the spotlight in any way. You know what I mean? Like when you get down to it, I mean, there's no answer. It's just something I've crossed my mind.
Let's put it this way. Like the prequels, when they came out, were derided by most fans, right? Most fans were like, nah, it ain't for me. But it brought on new fans, and now those fans are very vocal. And a lot of folks who originally disliked the sequels or the prequels have since kind of changed their tune, and they've warmed up to them considerably.
Today in Fortnite, me and Bespin are buying Darth Maul, we're buying Padme, we're buying Anakin, and we're buying 2 clone troopers.
Sweet.
Like, and everyone's happy. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. My point is that had he done the sequels, I'm not saying that everybody would have loved them, because they probably wouldn't have. Because George isn't.
The Gen Xers would have grown up, and then we would have been right back to that's not what my Luke would do, in some different way.
Yeah, and like my because I'm right in that age group, right? So had George done something with Luke or not used Carrie? What if he didn't use Carrie? What if he did a story and didn't even carry on with Leia's story, and it was Luke going on some side adventure, and his sequel didn't involve even Han? It was just Luke. Like, what if he had done something weird?
What he was going to do was he was going to have Leia actually have been the chosen one.
Yes.
That's where his mind ended up going, so then they would have just said it was woke.
So, well, that was before the woke era began. But yeah.
It would have, in its own different 1999 way, Yeah. It's PC. That's
PC.
what they would have said.
Yeah, and for you who may have questions, Jason and I did an extended series on George Lucas's sequels here on this channel.
Yeah,
you can find it in our history. We did a deep dive into it. What was George Lucas's sequel treatments? There was more than one, and I said that plural for a reason. He had, over the years, his sequel story evolved and changed. And what he would have done, say, in 1995 or 2000 is different than what he sold to Disney in 2015.
Right.
Right.
And he also was like just throwing out stuff and being like, make it good, Michael Arndt. Michael Arndt was like, I can't do this. It's impossible.
It's like Mark Hamill said, hey, George, I can't read this. Have you read what you wrote? Like, nobody can say these words. This is there's great stuff. So they wouldn't have been universally beloved, but the point was that you would have had the actors available because the actors were of age. Doing a movie with Rey set 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, approximately 10 years after The Rise of Skywalker, isn't a big leap.
No, and what's actually smart about that is that she is like 30 now, and she's probably going to be playing around 35. But if it does become a series, she will literally age into that age and right beyond it if it was, say, 3 or 4 films.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense.
So tie back to Rebels one last time. We talked about during the show. We talked about characters we could see in Ahsoka from Rebels. One thing we didn't talk about is, and we talked about other media that tie in here, the Thrawn novels. Well, there's a major character in the Thrawn novels that I think a lot of us have. We hope we get to see, and it's Eli Vanto. But a lot of you are like, Eli who? Eli Vanto. Eli Vanto, he's got a southern accent. He sounds like he's from Texas, but he's brilliant, and he's Thrawn's kind of right-hand guy throughout the novels. And
Eli Vanto sounds like a Chicano gang member who became a public intellectual. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be gang banging, but now I'm trying to turn kids around. Like, I'm Eli Vanto.
No, Eli Vanto is great. And Pelion is like his Watson. But Eli Vanto in the novels is a major guy. And there's a great story with Eli Vanto, just real quick. Eli Vanto was from the Outer Rim. and from a backwater kind of world. And so, of course, if you're backwater, you got to be from Texas. I don't know. But he's got this accent like he's from Texas. And he's very much just
that new Star Wars game does that.
He-
When you get to like Obadiah, what's it called? Not Obadiah. I can't remember what the worlds are called in that game for some reason. But when you get there, yeah, like all these people have like these like country bumpkin accents.
yeah.
And people don't like it. It didn't really bother me actually. I was just like,
Imagine if you're from Texas, it's like, why do we have to be backwater? We're
no,
like,
finally some representation.
it's not like we're from Georgia. I say that because Mike Porter's there, and if you're going to make fun of somebody, they should be at least around when you're doing
Mike Porter's at a piano right now going, Georgia, Georgia.
But anyway, he happens to speak a language that is a common language that
Esperanto. No?
Sibanti, something like that. Sibanti.
Sibanti.
It's a language that Thrawn speaks, and Thrawn also speaks some basic, but every now and then Thrawn gets caught. So they put Eli Vanto as Thrawn's translator.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like Eli Vanto is on track to be an engineer. Now all of a sudden he's a translator, and everywhere Thrawn goes, Eli Vanto ends up going. Mm-hmm. And in I won't give away more of it, but that's the setup for Eli Vanto. Some major things happen, and he becomes a thing happens with him in the book that a lot of us would like to see Eli Vanto's story continued, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so Eli Vanto is a character we'd love to see. We mentioned the character Ryder Izzati. Those are the two characters that I would love to see. Ryder, I think, belongs in the story. I hope that we see him in this story. Is there one person that you have not heard of that you would absolutely love and expect to see or hope to see in the story?
Who was the kid that was in the like end of Rebels? Like it was like named after Matt Martin, I think.
Not Jason Sandula.
No, there's like a kid, I can't remember his name right now. It's his name is a riff on Matt Martin, like the Lucasfilm guy. And like he's like in the end, he's like a rebel, and it comes in around I think like the final season. Mart Matten, that guy was cool. He's like a real like rebel looking dude.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
That guy would be interesting to see him in live action. Remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't. I got to go back and watch. Go back and watch.
Yeah, you know the guy because he's like
I know.
Yeah.
I've watched season 4 like many times just to go back and get references and like looking up stuff. I'll go back and rewatch bits, pieces, the whole thing, all of that.
Unless he died and I don't remember, but
oh, okay. I know who he is. Yeah.
He's very, very heroic looking. I think he could be a good protagonist in something if they wanted to. But but maybe it's weird that they named him Mart Matten after somebody they know who are working the company. Maybe that makes it weird. I don't know.
Well, I would like to see Ryder, and then there's a whole list of other folks we could see show up that we've not heard of yet, and I hopefully we will get more of that as it comes by. Just kind of list some of them. Any Mandoverse crossovers: Din, Grogu, Bo-Katan, Boba Fett, Black Chrysanthemum.
It would be interesting to see Sabine interact with the other Mandos at that point in the timeline, or to like know more about what her place is with them. But I get the impression that it's really about her struggles post-war, like where Sabine's at and whatever the issue is. I don't want to overstate that, but it does seem like that's kind of like where it's going. So, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if we go to that bar with her. You know what I mean, with Sabine at some point, but the bar from the pilot bar.
Yeah, and if you're going to get a cameo of anybody from the Mandoverse, just a cameo, it's got to be Pelimoto. Am I wrong?
R5D4.
So there you go. And yes, it was the
Yeah.
Atlanta traffic that traumatized me. That's what did it. We have a Mike Porter dad joke.
Okay.
He's given me dad jokes for the entire week, so appreciate that, Mike. And just another note that tomorrow there's a Hasbro has a big fan event for Star Wars. We were thinking they were going to give us the HasLab project, and there are huge rumors that the HasLab project is going to be the Ghost from Rebels.
Right.
But if the Ghost is going to be part of Ahsoka, and presumably it is. I mean, we see Hera flying something, could be the Ghost. I expect to see the Ghost. It would make more sense to launch that HasLab project as we get closer to Ahsoka, or once Ahsoka,
Or closer to a trailer that shows
shows the Ghost in
Yeah.
it, right? Because you'll get plenty of fans, vintage collection fans, that have been clamoring for the Ghost for years, and getting the Rebels vintage collection figures for years. And vintage Rebels was basically skipped by Hasbro, so we don't.
and you can see why.
Well, maybe
Because more than likely, Lucasfilm said these are off limits for now, because they wouldn't want you to go and make those and then all of a sudden here's the new show, buy the figures now.
but back in the day though, when Rebels was going, like season 2, season 3, and it's going vintage collection, we didn't get any Rebels figures back then, and then it passed, and then they never went back to say, we should drop these. And now you can see, and I could see why tomorrow we were expecting the HasLab project tomorrow, because it was going to be right there at May 4th. It's a big thing. They're going to come out. This is it, the moment we've all been waiting for. But now I could see where maybe they got a communication from Disney or Lucasfilm saying, put a pause on that, do something else.
Let me ask you this though: do you think without that it would still make it? Because I kind of do. I don't know. I don't know how many pre-orders it requires before it goes live, but I would imagine if that number is
it's like
reasonable,
5,000, something like that.
Yeah, I kind of think it would do it.
I think it would too. But if you're going to gain hype on it, and typically they only have like a 60 or 90-day window where you get to fund it.
Yeah.
If you want to let the folks in on it, you wait until closer to that time when you can release it closer to August, and everybody can come in. So tomorrow, I would not be surprised. First of all, if it's not the Ghost, why not do it tomorrow? That's one. That would be the one thing. So tomorrow during the Hasbro event, if they do HasLab, it would be something not the Ghost. If they don't do HasLab, it will raise the probability that it is the Ghost. Again, these are rumors that have been cycling through the community for months that it's going to be the Ghost. The other thing is, why not go ahead and tease it like tomorrow and let that excitement build, and then do the official announcing of it in August when you can unveil it. Here it is. You get your first look at it. Now's when you can put your pre-order in and let's go, right? So you do have time to build that excitement, enthusiasm from fans, start to get some feedback generated, and you can kick off that project kind of running, right? Yeah, Baymax. And our friend Baymax, this guy already knows because I've warned him. He made a promise. If you guys don't know, Baymax is a big vintage collection collector. He is the collector. He has all the things. He's got a problem. He really does. But
someday I'm gonna go to see his collection, and I'm gonna open up stuff out of the packages and stuff. He had a dream. I did that one time, and I was like, "I'll play with your stuff, man."
Don't say that. But he made a promise. He said if Hasbro would give him a vintage collection Ghost and the crew, he would never ask for anything ever again. That's all he needed.
That's a lie.
We knew it was a lie when he said it.
That's a big old lie.
We knew it was when he said it, but we're like, we're keeping this. We're going to hold on to it, and we're going to hold your feet to the fire on this. So when they announce the Ghost gets announced, then our friend Baymax is in for a roasting. I plan to get Martin Keeler on, our friend Zuvium, and we're just going to haze Baymax the entire time. We're going to haze Baymax the entire time, and that's going to be great. I can't wait. Can't wait. And he's already preparing his defense.
Got it coming.
He does, and he's your friends came in and they started opening stuff up too. but he's already preparing his defense. He's already braced for the hazing he's going to get. I've been talking to Martin, and we're gearing up for it. So yeah.
Oh, I see what you're doing. If you think if you hide it under the blurgs thing, that's how you get under the gun, so to speak. And then you just go back to your. Oh, it'd be cool if they made a life-size indoor forest ranger for me to sit in. I know your game.
It's exactly it. He said he's already preparing. So tomorrow we'll be doing that during the Hasbro live stream event. Cool. I do need to look up. Oh, there you go. TVC Mac, and he's lying too. Look at the liars. Look at him. When is the Hasbro Star Wars event?
I'm gonna make a name that's gonna be Jaslab, and it's gonna be my name with instead of the H, and I'm gonna make like really bad versions of stuff and go, here you go, it's done. Who wants to buy it for $400? See what I can do.
May 2023. It's 11 o'clock Eastern. So 4 p.m. British Standard, or British Summer is what they call it. It's 11 o'clock Eastern. I actually have a meeting from 11 to 12, so I will not be able to cover it live. But right afterwards, I will come on and we will talk about that. And then Thursday we get to have watch parties for Visions Season 2. Friday I will be at the Indiana Comic Convention, and I will live stream from my phone and say hello to folks from Indianapolis. So Jason, I hope you have a great rest of your week. We won't be able to visit on Friday as usual, but I'll be watching to see Sketchcraft say, okay, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'll shut up. And then like 5 seconds later, he's like, okay, I got to say something else. Yeah. I know.
It's out of control.
I know. Yesterday,
I canceled the show today. I said, you need a day off, buddy. You need to you need to think about what you've been doing.
I was listening to your show yesterday, and Sketchcraft would say, okay, I got this one thing to say, and then I'm going to shut up. I'll let you guys talk. And you guys would talk for about 30 seconds, and then he would be like,
we were talking about video games, and I know he's an expert. He's worked in the field, so I was like, he didn't play the game, but I was like, he still should be here. He knows his stuff, but yeah. But I did like the idea that he thought he would say one thing and then go back to drawing, but he didn't. He never can.
And all of his input was great. Yeah, I just had to haze him about it because he kept saying, I'm going to shut up. Like, no, you're not.
I had a Santa moment yesterday because I kept going like, oh, Rob's going to criticize a game he didn't even play, but I'm joking, and later on I'm like, that came off like a joke.
Oh yeah,
did it not come off like a joke? Did I come off mean?
I don't.
I thought, oh, it's Rob. He's got it coming anyway. Who cares? Yeah,
Mike Porter dad joke. I changed the wording up to a little bit to make it easier for me to read. But what did Darth Vader do when he was in pain and he felt Anakin's presence? Well, he'd go back to the tank.
I don't get it.
Back to.
I don't get it.
Pain. Back to.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's it.
All right, Mike Porter.
I love this.
You're just ahead of your
Gatlin-
time. Mike Porter's ahead of his time. That's the real problem here for me.
Gatlin Blurg. That's a perfect, Mike.
Alan Blurg. Now you've won. I don't know about that last joke, but that joke on the spot.
That was absolutely on the spot. And will I be commenting on the Young Jedi show? Yes, I will be on Thursday. I'll be covering that as well. Anakin for aching, Anakin. I got it. So I reworded it. I made it worse. So that was my fault. What did he do when he was in pain and I gotta go. Hold on. Let me read the original Mike Porter dad joke.
Okay.
All right. It says, what did Darth Vader do when he felt Anakin and pains? Aching and pains. Anakin and pains. That's it. You go back to the tank.
Now,
yeah. I messed it up.
Don't mess with the artist's work.
That's what happens when you try to.
You're the studio. He's the auteur, and think about what you've done.
The writer's strike started, and look, what happens when you mess with professionals?
Yeah, Mike Porter's on strike in solidarity. He's like, I'm not doing any jokes.
Good thing he gave me all the dad jokes yesterday. That's what, so
yeah,
he kind of gave me a pipeline.
I need you to turn in 8 months worth of dad jokes.
Yeah, because we're in trouble next week. Because the writer strike's on. Mike won't be able to write anymore. It'll be terrible. All right, Jason, thanks for hanging out with me. I've had a lot of fun today. We'll see all of you next time. And I hope you'll have a wonderful day. Hey, remember, and this is something I meant to bring up very beginning of the show. A lot of us deal with a lot of terrible things every day. And some of us have mental health problems that we deal with. Some people are going through some really rough times with lost family members. A good friend of ours just lost his grandmother. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of you.
She sounded rad. She sounded like a rad lady.
She was an amazing woman and had a fantastic role in our friend's life. But if you guys ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Some of us have gone through what you've gone through. I had to be reminded recently. I'm fairly young for a Santa Claus, and I'm going through things in my life that a lot of my friends who are Santa Clauses have already been through, and I'm their children's age, and they're like, "Hey, we'd be happy to help you anytime you need anything." So I want to let you all know that as well. I want to be a positive influence in your life. I'd like to be able to do something that makes your day a little bit better. I hope when you come out here and hang with my friends, with Jason and Meg and our friends, that you're having a good time, that we're doing something positive in your life that brings you some happiness and joy. And I hope that you get that from us. And if you ever need anything, please let us know. Right? Please let us know. It's important. It's why we're here. So thanks. And I think with that, I'll just leave it there. All right. You guys take care.
Well said.
God bless. And until next time, my friends. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. And may the force be with you always.